Order up.
Caribbean Kitchen, foods offer 7 unique blends of premium, low-sodium Jamaican seasoning that will add a burst of flavor to your dishes. Our authentic, all-natural Jamaican seasonings are a game changer when it comes to adding a burst of flavor to your dishes. Our products are kosher, all-natural, contains ingredients that are gluten-free and GMO-free. Our seasonings are handcrafted with the highest quality ingredients. We source our ingredients from the Caribbean to capture the authentic taste of the islands. Unleash your creativity in the kitchen and savor the taste of the Caribbean with our spice blends. Enjoy our variety of seasonings that are flavor-packed to deliver the best taste for your dishes. Get ready to create delicious meals that will excite your taste buds and leave your guests asking for more. Try our exclusive curry and jerk seasonings for an extraordinary cooking experience. Our blends are an excellent choice for chicken, meat, fish, and vegan dishes. Add a burst of flavor to your cooking with our top quality Jamaican seasonings. Grab one of our bundles and enjoy the taste of the islands.
A law-abiding family of Israelites peacefully attempting to live in the lands of their captivity. And then there's the black Hebrew Israelites. A creation of the Confederate. A modern-day makeover of the African Israelites, reimagined as an evil, violent villain. Rampaging through the streets, taking the lives of the innocent, committing heinous acts of hate at every opportunity. Or at least that's what they want you to believe. Even when the crime was committed by a white man. Whom the ADL's Jonathan Greenblatt blamed on black Hebrew Israelites. Proverbs chapter 6 verse 16 reads, "These 6 things doth Yahuwah hate, yea, 7 are an abomination unto him, a proud look, a lying tongue, and hands that shed innocent blood." Proverbs 12 verse 22, "Lying lips are abomination to Yahuwah, but they that deal truly are his delight." Proverbs 13 verse 5, "A righteous man hateth lying, but a wicked man is loathsome and cometh to shame." You see, family, lying is even addressed in the 10 Commandments. In Exodus chapter 20 verse 16, which reads, "Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor." This serious offense can even cause one to burn in the lake of fire. Revelation chapter 21 verse 8 reads, "But the fearful and unbelieving and the abominable and murderers and whoremongers and sorcerers and idolaters and all liars shall have their part in the lake which burneth with fire and brimstone, which is the second death."
majestic. Yeah, yeah. Heaven and earth shall pass away, but you will remain. So I say there's no greater, no greater, no greater. There is no greater. There's no greater, no greater, no greater. It's a name I have ever known. You swear by your name with blood. Oh, there's no greater love, no greater love. The only one who can save us all. You catch me when I fall. You catch me when I fall. So I magnify your coldest name. No name is greater than you. There's no greater, no greater, no greater name I have ever known. There is no greater, there's no greater, no greater name I have ever known. It's a name I have ever known. It gives me hope to speak your name. I'm not ashamed to say Yahuwah, Yahuwah. You are worthy to be praised. I need your presence in this place. So much power in your name. There's no greater, no. There's no greater, no greater, no greater, no greater, no greater, no greater, no name, no name greater. There's no greater, 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 no greater. There's no name under the sun that's greater than yours, Yahuwah. No greater. Hallelujah. No name greater than yours. No name greater than yours. No greater. No. 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 No name is greater. Is greater.
Shalom, shalom,
than
Israel.
yours.
Hallelujah.
No name
All right.
is
Well, shalom, shalom. Peace and
greater than
blessings. Peace and blessings to everybody. Yeah, shout out to AdKey Lorvins. That's his new single, Greater. His new single, Greater. So definitely, family, as you can tell, it is a beautiful, beautiful song. Definitely go and check it out. Download your own copy. I believe it is available through your standard media music outlet. So support AdKey. Beautiful song, family. Beautiful song. All right. Well, peace and blessings. Peace and blessings. Thank you, everyone, for dialing in. Boy, do we have one for you today. Hallelujah. But hey, before we get started, family, if we could just do a quick sound check, just want to make sure audio sounds okay. Actually, I have some fans going on in the background. So hang on one second. Let me turn them off. But if you can hear me, family, if you could put a 1 in the chat. Thank you, Akoti Saul. Thank you. Thank you, Miss Picard. All right. So it looks like sounds okay. So hang on one second. Like I said, I'm just going to turn down the fan just so that see if I can cut down on the background noise. And while I do that, family, just want to kind of just quickly touch on some of the things that we touched on last time. So last time we got together, we reviewed how like the heathen, Christians, Muslims, everyone from different walks of life are noticing this eclipse. They notice that something's coming up. They notice that there's something about it. Depending on what their religious background is, of course, they have different perspectives on it. But they know that there's something different about what's coming up, right? And to that end, family, I shared this video with you last week. So check this out.
You guys seen what's happening in the news right now?
Well, Mackenzie, I tell you what, I've gotten a lot of emails and text messages about this issue.
This is really hitting home.
I love how awesome Jesus is. Okay, so it comes across there, and this eclipse, it only touched our nation. Again, last time that happened, 1776. It was a 1 hour and 33 minute event. From the second the shadow touched the United States to the second and left, it was to the second 1 hour and 33 minutes. What is that? It's Psalms 133. Oh, how good and how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity. It's a call of unity for the body of Christ, whereas I'm going to tell you the warning of the second one is a call of civil war. So you got unity in the first one, and then you have brother against brother in the second one. And friends, we're gonna address this.
Indianapolis, Aries 31 has traffic 2 o'clock, slightly above.
Can you say aircraft type?
Negative, center. No distinct outline. Tell you the truth, the target is rather brilliant. Wait a second. He's heading right for my windshield. The traffic is approaching head on. Ultra bright and really moving. And right by us, right now. That was really close.
31, do you wish to file a report of any kind of it?
I wouldn't know what kind of report to file, Center.
This is nuts.
7. 6.
Can't be, that's inside the room.
It's reading right, man, look.
Well, you're not reading it right.
5 meters, man. 4. What the hell? Oh my God. Oh,
Give me the light.
Yeah, and I saw my brother Eric Tinsley. He was like, man, these Christians. Well, one thing's for sure, family. Everyone has a difference of opinion on this thing, family. But I guess one thing that we can all agree on, family. I know you seen the Yah was like, it was just laughing like I am. But one thing that we can all agree on, family, is that there's something different about this one, right? There's something different about this one. And actually, let me see if I can just bring up a few of the slides. Like I said, just want to lightly touch on what we talked about last week, not go through the whole thing. But let's see. I'm just trying to figure out, should we touch on this first? Hang on. All right. Here we go. So, got to pay the bills, right, family? So, anytime we do these lessons, we always try to make sure that our listening audience knows, from what perspective we're coming from. Let everyone know that we do have proof of who the people are, right? What they look like, where they went, the history, the history of the Israelites, and why why they're here in the States. I don't know what's going on with my voice. Bear with me. Ooh, bear with me just for a second, family. All right. So first things up, family, let's talk about the Israelites, right? So one of the things we try to point people to is we try to point people to the Lakesh relief. And this is in the British Museum. The Lakesh relief is a relief, or it is an exhibit in the London Museum where you can see a depiction, what we call high definition picture depictions of the Israelites on the walls in the London Museum, dating back to roughly 700 BC, right around that area. And this is when, King Sennacherib from Assyria goes into to make war against the house of Judah. And on his way into Jerusalem, or on his way to Jerusalem, he stops off at the neighboring city of Lakesh. He makes war with that city. He sieges the city. He conquers the city. And then when he goes back home, they make this relief depicting the entire battle, right? And what we do is that one of the reasons why we use this piece of history is one, it's obvious, right? When you take a look at it, what you're looking at on your screen are high definition pictures of Israel. And this is just one of those things, family, where it's really hard to, to say that Israel is anything but black, right? Because at the very least, everyone can take a look at these pictures of this relief and see that at the very least that the hair is, short, woolly hair, right? And then in addition to that, there have been also, an archaeological dig at that site where, when this big battle occurred and when the siege occurred and when the Assyrians, took the city and they slaughtered all of the brothers of Judah, because particularly this city is in the territory of Judah, not Issachar, not Manasseh, not even Benjamin, right? This is Judah's territory. This is Judah's city. So in Judah's city, when this battle occurred, when this slaughter occurred, there ended up being a mass gravesite. And in this mass gravesite, they could tell that the bodies were kind of just thrown on there after these people had gotten killed. They even took a look at the skulls, and they could tell that these people had passed away from trauma, like whether it was like a slash to the head or some sort of physical like sword wound or something like that. They could tell that just by the condition of the skulls and of the bones. And so based off of that, they knew that these were indeed the people that were part of the battle. These were the children of Judah. And when they took a look at those skulls, family, a couple of things that they noticed is that, skulls, comes in different shapes and sizes. The length of the skull is called the cephalic index. And in general, most African Americans have a cephalic index of 75 and lower. 75 and lower, that's the cephalic index or the shape of the Negro skull. Other races, like the European races, have a cephalic index of a higher number, 75 and up, higher, even up to like in the 80s, right? So there's a distinctive difference between the shape of the skulls, right? And that's why in forensics today, if someone were to pass away and they were just to be able to find the skull, they could actually tell a lot about who that person was when they were alive. So needless to say, family, when they took a look at these Lakesh skulls came back with a cephalic index of like 74 point something, right? Basically, it's in the range of the so-called Negro. So again, these were dark, melanated people, right? And they had, short, nappy, woolly hair, which is what you could tell from those pictures, right? From these pictures. All right. So that's what we're working with, family. And so with that understanding, let me quickly bring up this this slide that we were talking about last week. And actually, let me bring up a different slide. I think I have a couple here. I think this one has the summary in it. Yeah, this one has a summary. Okay, so when we were talking about the eclipse, we talked about how the eclipse was going to make two Hebrew letters, right? The letter Tav is being written by the total eclipse, because there's two types of eclipse that's being written across these United States. There's an eclipse or a Hebrew letter, which is a letter Tav or Tau, or how you pronounce it in ancient Hebrew. But this letter is being written via the total eclipse. So there was a total eclipse that happened back in 2017 that started from Salem, Oregon, or Jerusalem, Oregon, and went all the way down to South Carolina, Charleston, South Carolina. And we talked about that. We talked about the significance of those two cities, those two sites, the entry points. But then we also talked about the significance of the cross section, right? So when this eclipse comes in April the 8th, which is actually just a week away, family, we're not too long away from that date, right? But a week from today, and Most High will, and we will be live that day. And again, we don't expect anything to happen. At least I don't. I could be wrong, but this is just a sign being written, right? This is an omen, so to speak, right? So don't, watch out for those folks that'll pop up next, the very next day and say, "Ha, nothing happened." That's not what we're talking about, right? This is just a sign of things to come, right? So in any case, family, so one of the key takeaways of this sign, and actually I think I have a lot of these points on the next slide. Yep. So it's making this Tav sign, this X that you see. And in the center of this X, you notice that a lot of people were pointing out that this town, this area was called Little Egypt. And then, I pointed out last week that, there's also, ancient pyramid there, right? That they don't know who built it. It was there before the Indians, they believe. But in either case, it actually has pyramids at that location. But that place is called Little Egypt. And we know that Little Egypt is synonymous with slavery, with the slavery of Israel, which is funny because when you see a lot of these interpretations of prophecy, one of the things that you kind of see, especially some of the folks in the Christian realm, they tend to stay away from that captivity in Israel part of it, right? Even though that's the overwhelming similarity or overwhelming thought that you get when you think of Egypt. You think of captivity, you think of slavery, right? Back in the day, they used to tell us, hey, well, that's where the 400 years occurred. But of course, once we did our homework, we found that there's also scriptures in the Bible that will actually list out who went down there and how long they lived. And when you looked at who went down there and how long each person lived, and when you add up each of those years, you don't get anywhere close to 400 years. In fact, if you were to even if you were to stretch out those lifespans, one after the other, at most you get 200 something years, but not 400. So either way, family, we knew that the 400 years did not occur in Egypt. And we also pointed out that, when you look at the Septuagint, which is an older Bible, the older Bible clears it up. A lot of the scriptures that folks are running around with today saying that, hey, the 400 years occurred in Egypt, the Septuagint doesn't have that statement in there. So just an FYI, family. All right. So with all that being said, and this is the slide that I was talking about, family. So the significance about that X, that Tav, that Tau, it literally means 400. And so what we'll take a look at, family, is all this stuff kicked off when we hit our 400 years. All this stuff, family, I'm telling you. And that sign literally means sign and mark, right? It means sign and mark. And we looked at those scriptures where it talked about, when you see these signs, right? And we also read the scriptures that talked about, the Most High put the moon and the stars, the moon and the sun and the stars in heaven, like those were there for signs. So we are to read them, family. We are to interpret them. And so here we are, we have this mark being placed that literally means mark. It literally means sign over this place called Little Egypt. And it, like I said, the first eclipse starts off in a city called Salem, which is the ancient name for Jerusalem, ends up in Charleston, South Carolina, which had the largest Israelite population in the U.S. back in the day. And, everything, family, a lot of these things are pointing to Israel. It's pointing to one people. But that's not stopping everyone from picking out and parsing out, misinterpreting, these signs to their own demise, unfortunately, because they're gonna miss it. But anyway, family, let's keep going. But let's see here. So these are the takeaways. Just want to make sure we got everything. So that's it. And all right, so that is our recap. And I'm not sure if you're aware today, family. So a lot of stuff is going on. So just kind of leading up to this, this April the 8th eclipse, family, we have a lot of things going on. And actually, let me play this little clip to you because this actually happened today. And if some of you aren't aware, there's been an escalation in the war over in Israel. Let's take a look, family.
The Iranian embassy in the capital. We begin with a developing story out of Syria. An Israeli airstrike has hit the consular section of the Iranian embassy in the capital, Damascus. At least 5 people have been killed. Among the dead is a senior commander of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. Several of the embassy's diplomats have also reportedly been killed in the attack. Iran's foreign minister says the Israeli attack is a breach of all international conventions. Let's bring in our correspondent, Zaina Khoda. She's joining us live from Beirut. And Zaina, Iran's saying that a consular annex was attacked by fighter jets. What are you learning about this?
Yep. Fair use. Thank you for that, Akoti.
incident.
Well, no doubt this is a major escalation in regional tensions. Both Syria and Iran are accusing Israel of targeting the Iranian consulate in the heart of the Syrian capital, Damascus. The pictures, the videos emerging from Damascus show a building completely flattened. This is a diplomatic mission, and diplomatic missions should be safe. They should be immune according to international law. So this is really akin to targeting a country on another country's soil.
Now, I don't know if you heard that, family. They said this is akin to targeting a country on another country's soil. So like embassies, like the U.S. embassy and, all these embassies, family, or consulates, they are looked upon as like a piece of property that belongs to the country that's there. And so the fact that Israel targeted that consulate is a major escalation. Major escalation. So, and of course, Iran has vowed to respond for sure. And, family, they will, they said that they will respond in kind. And they said that now your embassies are not safe anywhere, Israel. So that was Iran's response. So the world is waiting to see how Iran is going to respond. And bear with me just for a second. I see my cousin in the chat here. So let me bring him on board. Hey, peace and blessings, Pastor Kelly. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Yourself, Benaya, and my apologies for being a little late here.
Oh, you're good. You're good. I was gonna say you kind of sounded like me, man. I was getting all choked up. It was like I was fine. I was fine for all throughout the whole day, man. It was just that when I started my live, just started coughing for for whatever reason.
Yeah, I had to clear my throat. So yeah, a lot going on. A lot is going on.
Yep. Yeah, so family, things are escalating, and it's funny how, things are ramping up, getting close to this sign. And I know, family, so there are some folks out there that'll be like, well, you know what? We've been through this before. You guys are just jumping to conclusions. This has happened before in Israel. No big deal. There are other things to worry about. Well, the thing I want to show you, let me see if I can share my screen. And actually, Pastor Kelly, hey family, so we were over on Pastor Kelly's live last night, and Pastor Kelly, I'm not sure if you have any of those slides that you have from last night that showed like some of the wickedness that they did against Israel, not the graphic ones now, because I know you got some graphic ones. But
yeah, I could pull it up when you I could.
Just take your time. Just take your time. It's just that I know when I looked at those images, and I guess the reason why they popped in my mind was that it made me realize that like the reason why all this stuff is happening, family, is because of Israel, right? It's because of Israel and what they've done to Israel here in this, especially like here in the States. And a lot of times when we're looking back on history and we look at the transatlantic slave trade, or you're looking at the atrocities that occurred here over in the States, when we look at those pictures and those images, we don't really make the connection that they're doing that to Israel. Like they're doing that to the Most High's people. I was like, they have to be afraid. I mean, the people that have done that have to be afraid when they see the sign of the Son of Man. And it's almost like the sign that time's up. Like, oh man, this is not this already. But let me see if I can share this screen with you, family. All right, so what you are looking at is this website called Time Graphics. Now, Time Graphics will allow you to create timelines, and just a little bit of history on my use on this website. So I used to use this website when I first came into the truth, started coming across all this information. I needed some place to organize like events in time, like on the timeline, and so that's why I created, the timeline on the right, which says Israel's dispersion. So this one is publicly available. I will dump this in the chat here in a moment, but I'm just going to hold off just for a moment, because I don't want the service to get overwhelmed and crash while we're trying to do the presentation from it. So I'm just going to hold off on that. So this one, the one on the right, it is publicly available. The one on the left right now is private, but most I will, after this presentation, I'll make it public. But again, like I said, the purpose of this one, actually, I guess we can click on the Israel's dispersion one first. But the purpose of this one, family, is I like to put everything on the timeline just so that we can see how everything matches up. And I know it's probably hard to see, but it will allow me to zoom in, like that. So, but this has, this was a timeline that I put together when, we was trying to figure out, how did things occur from 70 AD, with the Roman Empire, with the Visigoths conquering Spain and the Moors, the rulership of the Moors, wanted to know, how did all this stuff relate? And it wasn't until, when you put this on a timeline, family, this is when you realize that, man, this stuff is all related, right? Especially like when, especially like for so-called African Americans or Negroes. When it comes to slavery, they'll end our slavery, when the transatlantic slave trade begins. So that's where you see this little line right here, which is it's supposed to represent 1492, right? I'm sorry, 1501. 1501 is when the transatlantic slave trade started. But the thing that you'll notice, family, is that when you look at this on a timeline, you'll notice that it's like, man, all this stuff is adding up. You'll see the palpables that occurred just before the transatlantic slave trade started. You got the palpable dum diversas, the palpable Romanist pontifex, right? And all these different palpables in some way, some fashion authorized slavery on the transatlantic slave trade on the west coast of Africa. And another thing that kind of catches your attention is that you'll see that the Inquisition and the transatlantic slave trade start around the same time. Like the Inquisition starts first in Spain. It starts first in Spain, starts a little bit later in Portugal in the 1500s. But you'll see that they parallel each other, not only in their start, but also in their ending. If I were to kind of zoom out, you'll see that they both end at about the same time. And what some folks don't know is that the Inquisition, the headquarters of the Inquisition was in Spain, right? And what you also may not know is that when it comes to the transatlantic slave trade, the slave trade was governed by these things called asientos. These were contracts that were issued out. And these contracts were issued, the ones that governed the transatlantic slave trade, they were issued from Spain, same place that the Inquisition was at. Anyway, family, just like I said, just want to show you that when you look at all this on a timeline, it all adds up, and it helps to kind of put it into perspective. So in any case, so that's that timeline. But actually, let me go back, family. So this is the timeline that I just created recently. So this was called 400 Years in America. And let me zoom in on this one. All right. So the purpose of this timeline, family, is just to show you, put into perspective what happened when you hit your 400 years. So before, when I said, when we hit our 400 years, all hell broke loose. But it's one thing for me to say it, but it's another thing for me to show it. Because after 400 years, you started hearing these talking points that people were saying things like the first time ever, historic, unprecedented, back to back to back to back after that 400 years. All right, so I'm going to zoom in. I know it's probably teeny tiny on the screen, so I'm going to zoom in, going to go all the way to the left. And so this is supposed to show you the very beginning. This is that great American eclipse that occurred in 2017. And so this is the one that went from Salem. And I saw somebody say it's Shalem, but not Salem. All right, well, we're going to use a slightly different pronunciation, and it may vary, depending on your understanding of Hebrew. So that's totally fine. But just for now, family, we're going to use the spelling that's in the papers and stuff like that. All right, just because that's the one that most of folks here can identify with. We always try to meet people where they are with their understanding. So that's why we use certain words in certain terms. All right, so I know there's some religious fanatics when it comes to spelling and pronouncing certain things. We're not We're not that religious. All right. Anyway, family, but the first eclipse, and what you can do, family, when you're able to come to these timelines, if you see this little icon here, you can actually click on it, and it'll bring up, the videos that we have associated with it. So I'm not sure. I'm hoping that the audio will play on this. If not, I do have another version of it that I can play it. But let's play this and see if the audio comes through on StreamYard. So let's give it a try, family. Are you all able to hear that, family, at all? Is it coming through?
I can hear it.
Okay. Just want to make sure, family. Israel at large. Okay. Just want to make sure. Thank you, Pastor Kelly. All right. So if the audio sounds okay, I'm going to go ahead and play it. And yeah, I'm going to keep it in the miniature screen here just to avoid any copyright. So fair use. This is for educational purposes only. But just take a listen, family. Well, I guess I can go full screen.
Good morning. It's Monday, August 21st, 2017. Right? This is an American eclipse. This is eclipse. It's an all-time thing for them. A lot of people. This is good to see something like this. Here in New York, we get about 71% coverage. It's going to be totally cool to see. 200 million Americans live within a day's drive of what's called the path of totality. About 60,000 people are expected to travel here, nearly tripling the size of the city. But they are expecting 100,000 visitors to watch the eclipse.
So I'm not going to play all of it, family, but needless to say, you can see that when the eclipse occurred in 2017, it was a big event, right? Folks went out, they treated it as if it was some sort of entertainment. I don't know, Pastor Kelly, did you hear people kind of looking at it as an omen, like a bad omen back in 2017? I don't think I've
actually many were, believe
really?
it or not.
Okay.
Whenever you have events like this, you'll always have some coming out of the woodworks in terms of, the end time prophets, so to speak.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I was going to say I didn't necessarily hear about it, but that doesn't mean that it wasn't there. So yeah, if folks were kind of looking at that as an omen, then that was just the beginning. So thanks for that, Pastor Kelly. So that was in like 2017, right? And then so fast forward, so you can see 2019 on here. I'm gonna see if I can zoom in on the timeline to space these out just so that you can see it better. And then we'll zoom in a little bit. And let's see. All right. So first things first, we hit the 400-year anniversary of slavery here in the States. So again, anytime you see the little play icon there, you can click on it, and then you can scroll down, right? Because that's a picture. If you don't see a play button there, that's just a picture. But let's play some of these, family.
The bells rang for 4 minutes. One for every century since the arrival of the first African slaves in the English-speaking colonies that would become America.
Now, make sure you hear what he just said. The first African slaves in the English-speaking colonies, which would become America. That's the difference. First African slaves in the English-speaking colonies, which would become America, which will become, that daughter of Babylon, which she is now. But that's one of the main differences that we point out, family, is that yes there were quote unquote Negroes here before, but either they were part of a different country, they were over in a different area, but they were not part of the 13 colonies that became the United States. So that's the distinction, man.
Taken from what is now Angola, they were sold for food to the struggling colonists. The first of hundreds of thousands that would follow, creating history, changing history.
Don't let other people define who we are and who we were, who our ancestors were, because when you read the typical history book, it's their version of history. They do not tell you about the good things that we did. They tell you about our ancestry was all about slavery. And our Africans were not slaves, we were enslaved.
But we're here today to pick up those broken pieces and try to heal from the wounds of slavery. Everyone was infected. Slavery was an international trade, and everyone profited. Many people profited from the slave trade, and many people were broken by it.
This is 400 years ago, where my ancestors came across on those boats as what they call venture servants. And I wanted my wife to know a little bit about the history of my people.
So just so you know, family, this was a big event in 2019. This particular video, I believe it was like a year before. So they're going to talk about it as a event to come. But in any case, family, what you can see is that this was a big event. It was observed by many, many folks across the U.S.
We're coming up on a big moment in history. 400 years since the arrival of the first Africans to English North America, more specifically to Hampton in 1619. So this week, the Hampton 2019 Commemorative Commission is holding a summer learning institute for local.
That's Fort Comfort, now called Fort Monroe, down in Hampton Roads, right outside Hampton University. And for those that are familiar with the going down to that area, is just before you get to Norfolk. But yeah, it's I've actually was stationed at it Langley and used to go out to that base for a number of reasons. But yeah, that base is out there, 1619 Fort Comfort.
Yeah, I believe there's like a commemorative plaque out there.
Yeah, actually, they have a tour going on out there now that they just put together. It's a really, really, really good tour. Next time I plan on going to it, I want to record some of it, but they still have some of the old buildings there.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. So it was a major event, family. It was it was celebrated, across the U.S. But let me play this last one just to give some additional information from the History Channel.
The U.S. is 50 states strong today, but it began as 13 small colonies. It all started with Virginia, when wealthy London businessmen asked the British king to set up shop in what was known as the New World. 104 British colonists settled at Jamestown, forming the first permanent American colony. Next up, Massachusetts, founded after being established by the Pilgrims, who sailed the Mayflower to Plymouth. 6 years later, New York was pioneered by the Dutch, who called it New Amsterdam. Maryland, which became home to Puritans, Quakers, and Catholics, who didn't always get along, was a...
Yeah, so the reason why I put this one in here, family, is just so that you can see that everything started as far as like the founding of the 13 colonies was in the 1600s. All right, so that's when...
Because could I say something?
Yeah, you sure can.
Too?
Go ahead.
Because I know that you'll have some that'll say, well, the Transatlantic World War was going on prior to 1619. And family, it was. But we have to understand there's a key player that has to come to the table with all of this. This is when you get into understanding the four beasts based on Revelation chapter 13, but also Daniel chapter 4. And there is a key beast when you read chapter 7, verse 4. And I know there are some that think that when they say eschatology, which deals with end time prophecy, some think that many of the Christian versions or variants of eschatology would think that that's the end all be all. But you have Judaism in terms of eschatology, you have Islam eschatology, you have Hinduism eschatology. Pretty much you have different groups and different cultures that have their variants of different writings on the end times. And so, but when we look at this passage, and I know how the traditional many within the traditional church would interpret it, but when we look at Daniel chapter 7 verse 4, what really stands out to me, and I just read it real quick, it says, the first was like a lion and had eagle's wings. I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked, and it was lifted up from the earth and made stand upon the feet as a man, and a man's heart was given to it. And so for me, in understanding the history, and to your point, because is that what we're seeing here you know, the birth of the United States, the separation from Great Britain,
Right.
you
Yep.
know, so you can easily look at this scripture because the lion, what many don't know is that the UK, Britain, their national animal or image or symbol rather was a lion. And then we all know the eagle's wings, you know, United States, the eagle, even though Benjamin Franklin was pushing for a turkey, but anyway, but an eagle. But then it says to stand upon the feet as a man, and a man's heart was given to it. And that could easily refer to Uncle Sam. So the key to the prophecy is the birth of the United States, the beginning of the United States. So no one is saying that the other, you know, our brothers and sisters across the diaspora is not important. No, we know that the transatlantic world war began 1452, but the key to the prophecies is the United States. And with what Benea is presenting here in this presentation, especially when we're dealing with the signs of the eclipse, you see the United States is key. So I just thought I'd shed a little light on the prophecies and also to let everyone know, though, you know, for those that may be listening and may have the question of saying, hey, well, slavery started before, prior to 1619. You gave valid sources to prove that the United States began the first slave, not indentured servant, cattle slavery, not indentured servitude, cattle slavery began in 1619 and is documented in this country's records.
Yeah, I think one of the main pieces of evidence has to do with, you know, when we hit our 400 years, what happened next? Because, you know, one of the things we point out is like, we'll agree with folks. We'll say, yeah, I mean, yeah, slaves were present in, you know, in Southern, you know, South America. They were present in Central America well before the 1600s. But when they hit their 400 years, nothing happened, right? They hit their 400 years, you know, all hell didn't break loose. But for whatever reason, when you hit your 400 years, family, you know, the world went crazy, right? The world went crazy. And then this is what you can see on your screen. I'm going to try to see if I can zoom in. I may have to zoom in and zoom out just so that you can see everything. But the main thing, family, so, you know, we hit our 400 years, you know, the anniversary or the commemoration was in August, late August. And at the time, you know, there were, you know, forest fires raging, particularly in Australia. They had their record forest fire. You know, here in the States, we were dealing with an impeachment of Donald Trump. And believe it or not, family, in 2019 was when the first case of CV-19 occurred.
Yep.
The first case of CV-19 occurred.
I actually mapped all of that too.
Yep. And this ended up being a plague of plagues. A plague of plagues. And now, because I have had conversation with my family, Pastor Kelly, where, you know, they would say things like, well, you know, we've had plagues before. You know, you had the, you know, the Black Plague, and you had the, you know, bubonic plague and stuff like that. And the thing that I would have to remind them is like, sure, yeah, we've had plagues before throughout history. But the thing is that when you take a look at what happened along with the plagues, that's when you start to get into this unique place, right? So, you know, first thing, if we just deal with the plagues, I'm just going to play a little bit of this one, family. So this one has to do with CV-19 popping up on the scene. And let's just take a quick listen.
This is the city of Wuhan. It is home to an estimated 11 million people in eastern China. It is here where health officials believe the new coronavirus originated and eventually spread across the globe. Cases of the disease it causes, known as COVID-19, have risen rapidly as health officials have worked to contain the virus. Here's how COVID-19 became a global pandemic. 1,000 miles of...
All right, so I'm not going to play the whole thing on that, fam, but you get the idea. Started in 2019.
I was going to say, because you want to be careful, because they are, when you mention
CV-19
videos, all of a sudden, well, you'll be fine with CV-19, but, you know, with the video that you're sharing, You know, when I say they, man, they YouTube very strict even now with you know any references, because I'm still getting videos removed that I forgot that was even on my channel for as discussions in regards to that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
if you want, go ahead, cuz I'm sorry.
Oh no, you're good. Go finish your thought, Pastor Kelly.
And I was going to say, if you want, I do have just to your point, I do have the slide whenever you want to want to show it. I do have the slide that kind of goes into show the timeline of the early portion of it. So whenever you're ready, just let me know and I'll present it.
Okay, just one moment then. Let's see here. So just to finish up on the CV-19, so that was introduced, family, right after. So we hit our 400-year anniversary. CV-19 started up that same year. You know, I think I have for a date here. I had I put December the 1st, but I think it was just sometime in December. And then, you know, of course, what you can see at the bottom, you know, you'll see the timeline or the span where it says CV-19 record-setting, you know, deaths in the U.S. in U.S. history. So when it rolled out, you started seeing these first. It was unprecedented, right? Unprecedented when it came out. And also, family, you know, so in addition to CV-19, you may not know that this is when the ADL and team started smearing I'm going to use their term, Black Hebrew Israelites. Right after we hit our 400-year anniversary, later that year in December was when the ADL smear campaign started. Why am I calling it a smear campaign? So this one has to do with, you know, there was that mass shooting that occurred in the grocery store, and I think it was like was it in Manhattan or trying to think if it.
Which shooting?
Bronx, the kosher grocery store shooting.
Oh yeah, that was in Manhattan.
Yeah. So in any case, family, you know, when that occurred, they tried to, you know, of course the media kind of ran with it.
Oh, Jersey City.
Jersey City. There you go. Jersey City. But that one occurred, family, you know, immediately, you know, December the 11th, because I remember the timeline because we had to take a look at it. December the 11th, mainstream media was trying to run away with this being some sort of Black Hebrew Israelite, you know, event, right? Some target, right? And I'm like, again, I'm using their terms, and the justification for them even putting, you know, Black Hebrew Israelite or African Israelite in that accusation was because when they took a look at that gentleman's Facebook page, they looked back 4 years ago. And 4 years ago, they saw that he had a Facebook account or page, and it looked as though he was interested in, you know, using their terms, Black Hebrew Israelites. He was interested in like July of 4 years ago. And then 6 months later, you know, and they talk about that, family. They say, oh yeah, he was all interested and he was, you know, using their methodology. But what they don't tell you, family, is in December of that year, he got upset with the movement, and then he left it. He deleted his Facebook account, and you didn't see him posting anything after that. He just went dark. He moved on to something else. But that short 6 month period was enough, you know, 4 years ago was enough for them to label a crime 4 years later a Black Hebrew Israelite crime. That is a smear campaign, family. And that's what, you know, all these, you know, media outlets started running with. And we're not going to talk about who owned those media outlets that were pushing it out there. That's also one of the things that we pointed out. But then also, you know, in December of that same year, there was another attack that occurred from a mentally deranged man. I think he was at like a Hanukkah celebration in December. And same thing, family. This issue occurred. And when they took a look in his van, they found a notepad, and on the notepad it said something about Hebrew Israelite, Ebenoid Israelite, or Ebenoid Israelite. And they said, oh, look, he's a Black Hebrew Israelite. Because they found that written on a piece of paper. However, Ebenoid, family, is not a word. is not a word if you look it up in the dictionary. But anyway, family, that was enough for the ADL and team to go and start slandering and against the African Israelite community. So all that started right after we hit our 400 years, right? But let's pause here for a moment. So Pastor Kelly, can you bring up your slide? I think you have the
let's see here. Okay, let's see here. Let me go through there here. I'll just set my screen over. So just what you pointed out when you was giving the timeline about the 2019, here's a slide that I put together based on that. As you see here, C19, I'll just say it that way, just to make sure we stay in a certain space.
Right.
But to your point, December 12th, 2019, a cluster of patients in China, Hubei province, in the city of Wuhan began to experience the symptoms of atypical pneumonia-like illnesses. So this kind of like maps it out. I kept it pretty simple here. Just tracking that is other things like you pointed out within your timeline, but this is a major one that happened just as we crossed over the 400 years. You see, December 31st, 2019. And this given some of the cases and some of the symptoms over in China, shortness of breath, fever occurring in Wuhan, China. So these are some, like I said, this is just kind of like doing what you did, but I was just mapping out following this pestilence, or plague, so to speak. And we can see some of the major things that occurred. So I'm just showing some of them here. I'm not going to read them because I want to make sure that we keep your channel in a safe space. You know what I mean?
It's all good.
So yeah, but you know how it goes. Cuz don't want to give them a pass, right? And then the other thing that you pointed out, these images right here, family, as you see on your screen, these is to what Benel pointed out earlier. These are some of the things that we were subjected to. Right here, this woman right here in this slide right here. And as you can see the bottom of it, this is a postcard. This is an actual postcard. And where she's hanging, she was hanged from just below a bridge. They're actually underneath the bridge. And the other part of the picture is her son, who is 14 years, either 13 or 14 years old. And they raped both of them. They raped him first with her holding her, forcing her to watch, and then raped her. But and of course, they hung him. But when you see the images, and that's why I didn't put it on here, you'll see her son's pants down at his ankles. And many of these lynching photos, right, these of our ancestors being hung, that was part of the process. And you'll see not just the women, but you'll see a lot of men pants being down, not all the way down, but some down to their knees or below their, like Forrest Gump would say, buttocks. You know what I mean? You'll see those things. So here, this is another one here. This is you could Google some of these images, but this is, yes, they were $200 for a dozen of our people's ears. Part of the lynching, right, process was chopping our ancestors up and using them as souvenirs. They were eating them, literally. This was a cookout. There's another word we could say, but I'm just trying to say, stay in a safe space on your channel, but we already know what that is. And then over here, as you guys can see, this is another brutal photo to look at. This is a fire escape for those that, lived in the city. This is a fire escape. This is, I believe, Chicago. Our brothers and sisters being hanged in the public streets in Chicago. And these are like five brothers right here that was hanged. All right. And let me see here.
Yeah, well, I think that's enough, cuz.
No, I'm not bringing any of that.
Because I know which other ones you got. I was gonna say
no, I'm not gonna bring none of that up.
Yeah.
But what the other point I was gonna point out too is when we deal with this, remember how you dealt with the sign, the Ath and the Tha, right? Israeli, the Aleph and the Tav, right? But this is another letter. And this is the Quap, right? And you see, right? This letter means circle horizon. It means balance, right? And the numerical value is 100. But the key to this letter is right here. You see how it looks like a horizon, right? This is the this being turned, from its original position. But you notice how it looks right here. And if you place this in the center of that image that you have of the eclipse, you'll be able to see that this letter is actually a compass. This letter is actually a compass. And if you put this in the center here, this circle in the center, and you can rotate it as a dial. So just some of the things that just being laid out. We have plenty of information, as far as the letters pointing to the signs, the proof and the evidence. And this is just giving you an illustration of when I was dealing with the lynching of our Messiah. So as you see here, you had the 6th hour, the 9th hour. The 6th hour would have been the 10 p.m., the Gregorian calendar, the 9th hour, 3 p.m. And then, of course, having the Messiah down by evening. But I just use this as an example to show that this letter is actually a dial to help us pay attention to the signs. And so that's why, as you see in the background here, I have the eclipse there, and also I had that map that you pointed out with that X going across the middle. So I just want to kind of show that to the people. And did you get to the Red Heifer yet, or did I miss that?
Not yet.
Okay, I'll pause right there.
Okay. Yeah, and the thing, that hit me, family, when I was watching these images on Pastor Kelly's channel last night, and that was, you have to keep in mind, family, they were doing these to Israelites. Like, they were doing these to the sons and daughters of Judah, and they were cutting off the ears of the sons and daughters of Judah. They were cutting off the ears, the sons and daughters of Israel, making sport, like Pastor Kelly was saying, like they had picnics, right? They had picnics and great gatherings, celebrating the demise of the children of Israel. And I just had to shake my head, Pastor Kelly, when I saw that, because, it really does show the amount of judgment that's pending, that's to come because of all this injustice that hasn't been recompensed yet. And it also gives credence to, when it talks about how the nations are going to mourn. Like, you can see why, family. It's like they probably in their mind never thought that this day would come, but now it's here. And granted, like I said, I'm gonna keep prefacing this, family, is that we don't know what's going to happen after the 8th. We don't know how long things are going to take. So don't go and take out any loans, right? Do anything crazy, because we don't know how long the Most High is going to tarry, right? So, but at the very least, we just want to take note of these symbols and signs that are coming up. All right, family. Well, just get back to our timeline. So just want to show you that 400 years happened. A couple of events started happening, one after the other. Impeachment, CV-19 kicked off. California wildfires kicked off. Literally, like, the West Coast was on fire. I remember, at work, family, we had like a conference call, and some of our guys were on the West Coast, and they were saying, I remember on this conference call, this one time, he said, he's like, the sun is dark. It's been dark for 3 days. And of course, you're thinking about, the biblical reference to that. And he was like, we haven't seen the sun in 3 days. And you may have forgotten it, family, but the wildfires were so intense that the soot and the smoke from the fire blotted out the sun for 3 days, family. That was in California. Go ahead, Pascal.
No, I'm just agreeing with you, cuz.
Yeah. And
My
then
apologies.
Oh no, you're good. And it's just that and it was a record-setting fire. So it was like the worst fire in U.S. history. Like this is what I'm saying, family. You start to run across, these little phrases that you hadn't really had just before 400 years. So 400 years, you have the worst fire in U.S. history, the worst record-setting deaths in U.S. history. Then you had George Floyd kickoff, right? Early 2020, and of course, you know about all of the worldwide protests with George Floyd. I'm just going to play just a little bit of this, just so that kind of bring back, some of the images associated with George Floyd. Remember those massive protests? Check it out, fam.
For the 12th night in a row, a coast-to-coast call to action. Turning violent in Portland, Oregon, where police clashed with protesters well into the night. And in Seattle, where police appeared to clear protesters with flashbangs after the police chief ordered the suspension of tear gas and crowd control Friday. But those violent outbursts that often overshadow the beginning of this national inflection point, now mostly absent. Waves of peaceful protest marched on, bigger than ever before.
No more silence.
From Washington's newly...
Yeah, one of the things I noticed, Pastor Kelly, was like the complexion of the people changed. It's like I know when Black Lives Matters, just kind of noticed, like when Black Lives Matters kind of took over, that movement. It's almost like the movement had changed. But anyway, just an observation. But also, the fact that this thing turned global, because that, to me, like that was the unique thing about this, because we've had like Trayvon Martin's and unfortunately the what was our brother that was over in LA? Remember he got what was it, Compton?
Oh
LA?
yeah. Rodney King.
Rodney King.
No, that's the old one, right?
Yeah.
Rodney King.
Yep. So with Rodney King family, like none of those events triggered a massive, worldwide protest like George Floyd. Like in different countries, family, they were coming together. Yeah, thank you for that, Ms. Pakai. I see Rodney King in the chat.
As outrage spreads over the killing of George Floyd in the U.S., protesters have taken to the streets around the world. Thousands of demonstrators gathered in London to protest against racism and discrimination, despite calls from politicians not to defy the lockdown there because of the COVID-19 pandemic.
Rarely have protests over deaths in custody drawn so many Australians. Tens of thousands rallied in Australian cities, great and small. Their focus, hundreds of Aboriginal deaths in jails and police stations in the past 30 years, with no police officer ever found guilty. Here, the death of...
Same story, different state, different country, same story. Right, family? No police officer ever found guilty. Right. So this isn't something that's just in the United States. And this is kind of like what Pastor Kelly and I were saying, like, if you're trying to run from the persecution that's occurred here in the States, because the curse is global, fam. So you go to a different state, guess what's going to be waiting there? It might, the persecutor might look of a different persuasion, but it's still there, family. It's still there.
And Benea, also remember Breonna Taylor. All of that happened
right
at that same time as well.
Right.
What's that? The sister that they raided her home and shot her inside her own house.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. She was a paramedic, wasn't she?
Yeah. She was a paramedic.
First responder.
Yep. And she got killed by the local government.
Wow. So all that persecution, kicked off all kinds of, protests. And thanks for that, Pascal. I probably should add that in here, but at the very least, I know George Floyd was also, it was like that, that one drove Trump crazy because, just to see all these protests going across the world. But yeah,
and, because just to put a disclaimer out there, because I know that, how to talk about, they'll, and sometimes our people can major in the wrong discussions. They get into the founders about, being in sororities and being crooked and all this other stuff. Family, we understand that, but you cannot allow those narratives to overshadow exactly what Benea just laid out. No matter what, it does not take away from the discussion that organization helped bring to the table. Like he said, there was we saw a protest that we never saw before.
Right.
I mean, you name it. It was over in Australia. It was, in places you never even thought a protest would take place. So regardless of the personal plights of the individuals that founded that organization, the one thing you cannot take away from is the protests that triggered and they helped facilitate. Now, we're not getting into trying to be BLM, supporters and all that, but we just have to state what's right is right and what's wrong is wrong. And they did do in that area. We could say they did good because they made a cry worldwide. They brought it to the worldwide stage.
Yeah. And what I thought was significant about that, Pastor Kelly, was that after 2019, they couldn't get away with it. You know what I mean? Like prior to that, we talked about, Rodney King and Trayvon Martin, and, they would always get away with it. But this time when it happened, they couldn't get away with it. It's like that 400-year mark, fam. It was like, this time, if it was going to happen, it's going to go in front of everybody and we are going to react to it. But do you have anything else on that one, Pastor Kelly?
Oh, no, I'm good, because I just wanted to kind of put that out there about the BLM.
Okay. And I think, let's see, did I have any? Yeah. Okay. So I did have some links in here. So if you, on some of these, family, like if you click on them, like where it says COVID-19 record-setting deaths in history, if you click on it, I do have a link to the article. So if you click on it, like this is the World Health Organization. And, here it says, on the 30th of January, 2020, CV-19 was declared a public health emergency and international concern with an official death toll of 171. By the 31st of December, 2020, this figure had stood at 1,813,188. Yet preliminary estimates suggest that the total number of deaths attributed to CV-19 pandemic in 2020 is at least 3 million. So in 1 year, family, 1 year after 2019, 3 million people around the world passed away. I'm just saying, it's some of that, it's kind of hard to explain away some of these things, family. But so that's on the record-setting deaths, and then even on the acres burned. I think if you click on that, also have some links on here as well, so you can click on to get information about the California wildfire season. Nearly 9,900 wildfires burned. It's twice the previous record. Twice the previous record. Right. So they had record-setting fires, on the West Coast. All right, family. Like I said, again, the point of showing you all this, family, is like all this stuff started kicking off just after you hit your 400 years. Right after 400 years, all this stuff started kicking off. And so that was just 2020. Right. Those were like the highlights of 2020. 3 million people had unalived. George Floyd, worldwide protests, wildfires burning, record wildfires burning across the country, right? And of course, all the stuff that goes along with that CV-19. First time, we had those lockdowns, schools were closed, people were asked to start working from home, mask mandates, you have to stand 6 feet apart, like all that stuff, family. Our lives changed dramatically in 2020. Right. and people were scared, fam. I'm telling you, people were scared. But then, as bad as 2020 was, here comes 2021. And this is when you started off 2021. Now, this is right after, you have the impeachment before, which didn't go through. They let Trump off the hook. But then in 2021, Joe Biden had won the presidency, so he's getting inaugurated in January. And then, of course, you had the Capitol attack. First time ever. People will say like, no, it's happened before in 1812 when the British, well, yeah, that was a foreign country. But I'm talking about like here in the States, by its own citizens. Like it was a first, right? And attacking the
go ahead, make it clear. Not just their own citizens, but it was Caucasians.
Yes.
It wasn't our people.
Yes.
Because you had insurrections in the past, but it was our people trying to get free.
Yep.
But this one, you know what I mean? It was their people. Anyway, I just thought I'd mention that.
Well, no, but like to your point, Pastor Kelly, like, but this was an attack on the Capitol. Like to your point, like insurrections, we're talking about like insurrections at like a plantation or something like that. But this was like a attack, like a mob gets together and goes down to the Capitol and check it out, family. Like this is what happened. And Pastor Kelly, I don't know where you were when this happened, but I remember sitting at home thinking, ain't no way that they would let black folks do this. Check this out, family.
We're going to give riot warning. We're going to try to get compliance, but this is now effectively a riot.
49 hours declaring it a riot.
45 to 50 feet by the Capitol Police One advisor trying to breach and get to the Capitol.
We have a breach of the Capitol! Breach of the Capitol!
Nicely being pushed away. I mean, could you imagine that happening, Pastor Kelly, in our neighborhood?
Oh man, we would have been unalive just even the thought of it.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, and for the people to really understand the significance, some officers were killed.
Yes.
They didn't have, like, if we were marching, if they knew that we were marching, they would have had all kinds of different groups out there, military groups, as far as the National Guard, all of that. But these people made it into the chambers.
Yes.
To the point where Congress were getting ready to vote or to confirm their votes, rather.
Yes.
And Donald Trump stirred them up.
Yep.
Stirred them up and refused to speak on it to stop it. It took Mike Pence, stepping up to doing that. But think about it. They defecated on what's her name? Nancy Pelosi's desk.
Yeah.
They did all kinds of things. And here it is. You have the leader that stirred it all up running for president again.
That's
had it
crazy.
been anyone else in our community, again, like you pointed out, look at the scrutiny former President Barack Obama was under his entire presidency. He led the insurrection, and guess what? On his way out, he was allowed to put 2 or 3 Supreme Court, justices, all these different things.
Yep.
And now he's on the precipice of being back in the White House after all of this.
That's crazy. And just might get in because the current president, his approval rating is at a record low. So, wow.
Well, you know what? I don't even pay attention to it because remember, it's a number of times, even with some other previous elections, they'll say the same thing, like, hey, well, the Republicans going to sweep or the Democrats going to sweep.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, well, how do we get the numbers wrong? So it's those polls, You already know how statistics is. I'll leave that alone.
Yep. Yeah, you're right. But but back to as far as like the timeline is concerned, because it's like, so you had that January attack. So this is kicking off 2021. So we all talked about how 2020 was like the start. It was like that wicked start with CV-19 playing that key role. You had the wildfires, playing that key role. You had the protests being front and center, right? And then when 2021 came around, that's when the jab started being, blessed by the CDC. And then let's see, I can't read this here. It says record year for mass shootings. 2021 came around. It was a record year for mass shootings. And actually, let me see. I think I got a chart in here. Check this out, family. Yeah. So this is new CDC data shows 2021 was record year for gun violence. And let me see if I can get that other link up here. Hang on. And that is this one, just so that you can see it. So just to show you that there was a big jump in mass shootings, 2021. So again, family, it's like the wheels on the bus was coming off, family. I'm telling you, it's like all these things started happening back to back to back to back. Record number of fires, record number of deaths, record number of of mass shootings, of people getting unalived. I mean, like I said, you just start having these records, right? First time you had a sacking of the Capitol, right, after an election. And let's see what else we got up here, family. And let's see, so that was the year 2020. And let's see here, Capitol attacks. Let me zoom in here, family. All right, all right, and then as bad as the deaths were in the year 2020, family, the year 2021 was worse than that. So it just kept getting worse, family. It just kept getting worse. And then I put this in here, family, because like I said, sometimes as time passes on, we kind of forget how bad things were. But literally at the end of 2021, family, folks were in the process of rating 2021 as the worst year in U.S. history. Like, that's how bad it was. Just want to show you some of these articles. The worst year in U.S. history. All right, so let's see. Maybe that link is taking a little bit. Let me try the other one, see if it's still the same. Okay. What was the worst year in history? To say that 2022 has been a year to forget would be a colossal understatement. But is 2022 the worst year the human race has ever known? Right? I mean, the people were writing these articles. That's the reason why I put this one in here, just to show you that, kind of remind us that man, when this stuff was going on, family, we were in it. I mean, we were in it. And, of course, things were going on around the world. You had that mouse plague over in Australia. I didn't put stuff like the red tide and stuff that was showing up on the East Coast and stuff like that. I kind of left all that stuff out. But, you get the point, family. A lot of things were going on after the 400 years. And then just when they thought that they got everything under control, we were finally, COVID was it was kind of dying down a little bit. They had that jab rolling out, right? And we thought we made it. All of a sudden, the Ukraine war pops off. So, let's see here. I think my date might be off here. Let's see, Ukraine. Oh no, here we have. It's like Ukraine war timeline. All right, let me see if I can pull this up. All right, so this is just a timeline of the Ukraine war. And just to show you, family, if I go all the way to the bottom. So in the year 2022, that's when it started. I know it seems like believe it or not, family, it started in the year 2022. That's when Russia invades Ukraine. And Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin the third orders the deployment of 7,000 U.S. military personnel and key enablers to the locations. All right, so you see it, family. So now we've shifted from the virus to war, and this is where we are today, family. We are in the time of war. And let me see if I can zoom in a little bit on our timeline. And so, of course, you have Ukraine, you have Israel, right? We got World War, of course, all of these family is, because some people will say, because, like with naysayers family, they'll always deny it all the way up until the end. Right. But they'll say things like, oh man, we've had war before. We got, war over in, Vietnam. We had war over in Cuba. But the thing that folks will tell you, like today, family, like the difference between then and now, they'll tell you that we are closer to World War III today than we have ever been. Like, we're close, family. There's some clips and stuff that I didn't put in here, but we are close, family. So that is the difference. And then let me see, Israel, Hamas war. I don't think I have any. I may have some links on that, but we'll skip that for now. But then, when you talk about the war in Israel, family, there's another key important thing that we have to keep in mind that, that's the purpose of this talk tonight. And that is the red heifer, right? So we talked about the importance of the sign, but in the coming weeks, we need to understand like why these coming weeks could actually start World War III. And it has to do with the red heifer. So I'm going to play, let's see here. I think I got a couple of clips here. Let's see if it works. I'm going to start off with this is CBS kind of, breaking down the red heifer. Check it out, fam.
The conflict in Gaza now entering its 6th month. The Israeli operation to root out Hamas terrorists there has resulted in the deaths of 30,000 Palestinians and 242 Israeli
fair use
soldiers. The war started after Hamas attacked Israel on October 7th, killing almost 1,200 people and taking nearly 230 hostage, some still in captivity. Despite the deadly outcome across the region, one trigger for the Hamas rampage has been widely overlooked. Chris Livesay has the story from Jerusalem.
The infamous October 7 massacre that sparked a war, but one confounding yet eye-opening motive has escaped the headlines. In a recent speech, a Hamas spokesman blamed the Jews for bringing red cows to the Holy Land.
All right. So the Hamas speaker or representative said that, when they gave the justification for, their invasion of Israel, part of the justification was the red heifer. I don't know if any of you all knew about this. Yep, I see. Let me see if I can put this on the screen. Yep, red heifers from Texas. Red heifers from Texas. I'm reason why I'm smiling, family. You can't see it. Is that they're not just from any place in Texas. They are from a place in Texas that's going to be in the total eclipse. So when that mark from the Tav gets made, the place where the red heifers came from to go over to Israel, which might start World War III, is going to be in that Tav. You got to let that sink in for a little bit, fam. But let's just listen just a little bit more to what's the deal with these red heifers. Why was Hamas worried about some brown cows? Right.
And because that's the point that I wanted you to mention too, is because I don't call them red heifers, I call them brown.
Right.
Because truth be told, you'll see the word Adamah in the Hebrew. And Adamah is what? Red like the ground.
Right.
So this further confirms the Israelites' appearance.
Yep.
But, I'll leave that alone.
No, you're good because you can actually, to your point, Pastor Kelly, you can look at the cows in the background. I mean, they're like a reddish brown.
Yeah. Right? As a matter of fact, if you share my screen real quick.
Mm-hmm.
See. I had to put one there. There it is right there, family. That is a, brown heifer. Adama. And that's why I put the ground behind it. And so and for those that may not be familiar with the red heifer, of course you can go to Numbers chapter 19 to get an understanding of the instructions about that, because this is where you get into the prophecies in terms of, the criteria of this brown cow.
Oh, they're going to go over it.
What's that, cuz?
No, I said they're going to go over it. They're going to go over it.
Oh, okay. Because I was just, so I'll leave that alone. But yeah, so again, you see the tone, right? This is Adama, brown, not the like some of the images that I saw online in some of these videos. They tried to make that cow look red, literally.
Right.
So
kind of make him look like what's that? Like Elmo. They try to make him look like Elmo.
Yeah.
But it's funny. Every time I hear heifer, it just reminds me of growing up. Pascal, you know how you riding on the school bus.
And matter of fact, cuz, can I show this one slide?
Go ahead, cuz.
Let me show this one slide just to kind of put another thing to rest, right? About Adama. But this is ruddy. And I got other passages. If you look at different translations, especially describing David's appearance and that he's ruddy, some translations will tell you that he's brown or dark brown. And some translation would say black. So notice what you see here, family. Still, you have Adamni or Adamawana, which still ties it to Adama, like the ground, Adam. Ruddy is the form taken by the adjective red when used as a term of praise of the human skin. And this is used in the Bible. And it has in parentheses, the Hebrew and Greek words are all usual words for red or to be red. But the kicker is here. The dark-skinned Hebrews found great beauty in a clear complexion. Didn't say olive, didn't say Middle Eastern. It said dark-skinned Hebrew. And I zoom it in just to make sure no one thinks can question that I'm trying to misuse or misrepresent this encyclopedia. Again, it says here, the dark-skinned Hebrews found great beauty in a clear complexion, because when many people think of ruddy, all of a sudden you see images, for example, of Malcolm X or Beyonce.
Right.
That's not the ancient definition of it. Matter of fact, all of us, even though we come in different shades, would still be considered dark-skinned. I turn it back over to you guys.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah, it's a dark brownish red color is what they're talking about. And then let me just play a little bit more of this report by CBS. So basically, family, just to kind of recap, Hamas was saying that the justification for their attack had to do with these red heifers, these red cows. So you got to ask, why in the world would Hamas be risking all this, retaliation from Israel over red cows? Why would red cows be considered by some the precursor or the catalyst for World War III? Let's check it out.
The cows he's talking about at a secure, undisclosed location are these red heifers, to be precise. Some Jews and Christians believe they're the key to rebuilding the historic Jewish temple in Jerusalem and to beckoning the Messiah. To understand, you have to go back nearly 2,000 years when the ancient Romans destroyed the last temple in the city. To rebuild it, these believers point to the Bible's book of Numbers. It commands the Israelites to sacrifice a red heifer without defect or blemish, and that has never been under a yoke. Only then can the temple rise again. Caring for them on an Israeli settlement in the West Bank is Yitzhak Mamo.
So we have here, after long research we find in Texas.
In Texas?
Yeah, Texas, United States of America.
Texas Red Angus, flying them 7,000 miles to Israel.
This is not a publicity stunt.
So just an FYI, family. So the place that they found them, because they came from 2 ranches, and for the heifers or the cows came from a place that's just outside of Dallas Fort Worth, and that's in the path of what they call total darkness for the eclipse, right?
To that. Oh, good, because I thought.
Finish your thought. Finish your thought.
No, I was going to say, when you understand Dallas, Texas is outside of New York, and I believe I can't remember the community in Los Angeles or in California, but Dallas have the largest concentration of, I'll just say, the name stealers. You know what I mean? That in just when you mentioned Dallas or they mentioned Dallas in the video, that's pretty significant because that community is there. And for me, it's just too how they, making a point to try to manipulate prophecy to put themselves in the forefront of it as if it's directing and pointing to them, anyway.
Mm-hmm. No, you're right. Because what I meant to ask you earlier was, do you remember when we were talking with Elder Hamadishi? He's one of the elders with the Limba, and you were asking him about the DNA thing, about how Israel came down to the Limba. Of course, the Limba, a good portion of them say that they're priests, like at least the folks in the Buba tribe down there. And they were taking their DNA and they, took it one time and it came back like something like 20%. And then they went back and took it another time and it was like, well, now you're 40% or 50% priests, and they took another time and it came back, well, you're 75% priests, And then when they took it that last time, they never came back with him and told him what the numbers was. But I thought during his interview, that he mentioned that they were trying to recruit some of their priests to do stuff in Israel.
Yep.
But
they need us.
They need us. They need us. And I believe it's like I said, I don't have any information, fam. Any references to support it, but I just believe that it's in support of this thing that they're going to try to do with these red heifers, and why Hamas jumped out, was willing to start war with Israel to stop it, right? Because that was part of the reasons, justifications for it. But yeah, let me play just a little bit more of this, fam, just to get an idea of what the deal is with these red heifers.
What do you mean?
Meaning, this is something you take very seriously.
Harry Potter is a good story. The Bible is not story. The Bible is a way of God to lead us.
Is that big in? But a massive altar already awaits where the heifers are to be burned. According to some believers, the ceremony needs to be performed right here on the Mount of Olives, looking directly into where the temple once stood. But something else now stands in its place. The Dome of the Rock and Al-Aqsa Mosque, among the holiest sites in Islam. Today, only Muslims are allowed inside, but that's not stopping Jewish activists outside.
Once you guys started here.
All right. So another thing to point out, family, is, so I don't know if you caught it or not. So the whole point of this, and we'll kind of talk about it high level, then we'll dig down into it. But high level, family, and Pastor Kelly was bringing this out a little bit earlier. But high level is that they were using these red heifers to cleanse them, right? So in order, I guess it kind of goes like this, family. In order for them to be able to rebuild the temple, they need to be cleansed in order to do it. And the only way that they believe that they can be cleansed is to have, to sacrifice a red heifer. Enter in the red heifers from Texas. Now, the red heifers used to be over in Israel, but when we got kicked out in 70 AD, the red heifers poofed and they were no longer found in Israel when we left, right? And strangely enough, the places that we went to, that's when red heifers started popping up. We came over into the States. They popped up in the States. We came over into, South America and these other places. Red Heifer started popping up over there. So they literally had to go to where we were, grab the red heifers from over there, and then bring them back over here. And I believe Pastor Kelly was getting ready to go into this, but the red heifers, there's certain requirements for the red heifers. Like they have to be, all red, or red is brown. When I say red, we're talking about, like Pastor Kelly was saying, red is brown. And they can't have they can't even have like a black hair or or white hair, or two white hairs, something like that. And if they do, then they are disqualified. And family, get this, they have to be 3 years old. They have to be 3 years old. And so what happened, family, I think I got the date on this thing here. I didn't have the date on here. Yeah, there was another article where it showed the date of when they were actually brought in. So I want to say they were brought in last year. And when they were brought in, family, they weren't 3 years old yet. But get this, family, they turned 3 years old in January. And also, family, when they turned 3 years old in January, this is when the time clock started ticking. Why? Well, as red heifers age, that's when they start to sprout these other hairs, like black hairs or white hairs, other than red hairs, which would cause them to be disqualified from being sacrificed. So in other words, family, like these, the folks that are trying to pull this off, they can't wait long. They have to do this right away. And what they have to do, family, is they have to sacrifice these cows, burn them on an altar, burn them all the way down to ashes. Then they're going to take these ashes and, put it in water. And then they're going to, sprinkle it on, I guess, all these priests and stuff. And these priests will then be holy enough to rebuild the temple. And like this report just said, well, wait a minute, there's something in the way where these temples are currently located. And so for that, family, and Pastor Kelly, did you have anything to add on that? I know I may have kind of spoke on some of the stuff that you were mentioning before.
Well, you pretty much hit it on the nail. And one of the things too, if you I want to highlight a key word real quick. If you could share my screen, just so that I want to just share one definition here. But this is what you was pointing out, what you shared about the no blemish. So you see here that they bring thee a red, and you see the word Adamah, heifer, para, without spot, thamayam in the Israeli tamim. But that's the key, without spot, wherein is no blemish, mawam in the Israeli is mum. So, but when we look at, and also a female cow. But if we go to, I want to go to that one key word. Let me fast forward. And that is perfect. Let me fast forward here. Right? This word right here, tamim or tamayam, it says integrity, truth, without blemish, complete, full, perfect. All ties in together. It's all connected. And if we skip down to here, like you pointed out with the ashes, it says, and he that gathereth the ashes of the heifer shall wash his clothes and be unclean until the evening. So just to your point, there was laws put in place for those that handled the cow. And then it goes further and say, he that touches the dead body of any man shall be unclean. He shall purify himself. So just to what you had already explained. But the key that really wanted to point out is that the offering of the brown heifer was instituted by Yah for good reason. And if a person sinned while the Israelites were marching along, Moses could stop the march in its could not stop the march in its tracks and put up the tabernacle, right? And then go through the process, and so forth. So that was one of the specialties of the heifer, is so that way Israel, if anyone was in sin, they didn't have to stop what they were doing as far as proceeding to the promised land. So that was a key point that I want to bring out with it as well. And this is what you already pointed out, as far as the ashes, and then the significance of how many teach that this is what's needed, in other words, for the building of the third temple.
Yeah, thanks for that, Pastor Kelly. And then what I want to show you, family, is just get you an idea of where things are located. So you remember like the Dome of the Rock, right? So this is the Dome of the Rock that you see on your screen. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to zoom out a little bit. And what you'll see here is Al-Aqsa Mosque. So I just want to show you that there are two different buildings. They're two different places. You got the Al-Aqsa Mosque, Aqsa Mosque, and then you have the Dome of the Rock. Two different places. Now, the Al-Aqsa Mosque is the third holiest site in Islam, in all of Islam. So it's not just a Hamas thing. It's not just it's not just of significance to local, Muslims. This is of significance to all Muslims, all 3 billion or 2 billion Muslims around the world. This is it. Like, this is their spot. And if I zoom out a little bit and just show you where the Wailing Wall is. So this is the Wailing Wall. Hopefully you can see my mouse. It's right here. This is where you see, them sticking those things in the wall and going back and forth at the wall. So that's right there. So that's right on the side of Al-Aqsa Mosque, and a little bit down from the Dome of the Rock. All right. So basically, family, what they're saying is let me go back over to my slide here. What they're saying, family, is once once these priests can be cleansed, by the sacrifice, and get this ashes and put it in the water, and then they throw it on the priest. I think I saw somewhere as well that they have to kind of throw the blood on the in the area of of the mosque and stuff like that. And we'll see, we'll see if they pull that off. But in any case, family, once that's done, then they are able to attempt to rebuild the temple. Like, that's the only thing that's holding them back in their mind, is the fact, in their mind, that they are not cleansed or not clean in order to do it. And so what the leader of Hamas was saying was that, so this is, 2024. So I want to say last year, those heifers were brought in over to Israel. They were brought into the West Bank. Well, they were in the West Bank now, fam. I'm not sure if they were over in the Gaza Strip before, but they brought them in that area. And then the Hamas and those guys over there were looking at this saying, whoa, why are you guys bringing those red heifers over here? I know you're not going to do what I think you're going to do. And then that's when, part of it, according to Hamas, like, their justification to doing what they did was to try to subvert, what they were doing with those cattle. But let me do one other thing, fam. I'm going to just finish out this
the conflict in
Mamo.
Finish out this report, because they show you that the altar is already there. They show you that they've got plans in place, and they are boldly talking about doing what they should not be doing. Because if they do this, family, all of those Muslim world, all of Islam, those nations out there will be enraged, and it will truly be World War III. I'm telling you. So let's check it out, family.
South of America, Texas Red Angus, flying them 7,000 miles to Israel.
This is not a publicity stunt.
What do you mean?
Meaning, this is something you take very seriously.
Harry Potter is a good story. The Bible is not story. The Bible is a way of God to lead us.
Is that big game? But a massive altar already awaits, where the heifers are to be burned.
According to some believers, the ceremony needs to be performed right here on the Mount of Olives, looking directly into where the temple once stood. But something else now stands in its place.
The Dome of the Rock and Al-Aqsa Mosque, among the holiest sites in Islam. Today, only Muslims are allowed inside, but that's not stopping Jewish activists outside.
Once you guys,
6 days a week, Melissa Jane Kronfeld leads groups from around the world who defiantly pray. as close as armed guards permit.
It's not about the destruction of Islamic holy sites. It is about preserving this place and being guardians over the house of God for all people.
So you're happy with it where it is?
No, it's going to go 100%. But yeah, I believe
it's going to go.
It's 100%. Yeah, the whole thing's going to go. We have to build a temple.
You see how nonchalant she's talking about her family? She's like, "Oh, it's going to go 100%. It's going to go." I mean, she's talking about, you know, World War III family.
When you say that Dome of the Rock has to go, MJ, it's hard for me to imagine something more incendiary.
Let me ask you something. The Middle East seems pretty destabilized right now. And the war, if I'm not mistaken, is already here.
To be clear, hers is a dream not shared by the Israeli government or by the vast majority of Israelis and Jews, but it's been enough to incite numerous Islamist groups. Hamas has dubbed its October 7 assault on Israel the Al-Aqsa Wave and has the Dome of the Rock on its emblem. But this is sacred ground to billions of Muslims globally, not just Hamas terrorists, stresses Imam Mustafa Abu Sway of Al-Aqsa Mosque.
Al-Aqsa Mosque belongs to all Muslims. So you'll find reaction from Indonesia to Toronto to New York. That's really given. Al-Aqsa Mosque belongs to all Muslims, and the Muslims today are 2 billion people. 2 billion people.
Simply by performing these acts, are these Jewish activists kicking a hornet's nest?
They are. They are.
A hornet's nest they're kicking all the way to Capitol Hill.
So good to see you here in the nation's capital.
Those sacred cows were showcased in Washington at a recent prayer gathering. Many evangelicals believe these red heifers will usher Christ's second coming.
We need the Messiah.
Yeah, it's interesting, Pastor Kelly, because they don't even believe in the Messiah as far as these the folks that are trying to pull this off. You know, it's kind of like an odd marriage between the two. I don't understand that.
Yeah, they don't believe in the Messiah, but they do have messiahs that they believe in. Like the guy, the what's his name, Rabbi, well, dealing with the Lubavitch movement. You know, they viewed him as a messiah, Schneerson. I can't remember his full name, but Schneerson, I believe, was his last name. So they use a lot of the Torah to try to justify the messiahs that they want to look like them.
Wow. Well, just to show you, family, they believe that they're getting close, family, to being able to pull this off.
Yesterday, I had the honor and the privilege to be part of something that I only ever dreamed that I would have the opportunity to be a part of.
Heading out to something very exciting. You know, this week it's Shabbat Parshat Parah, where we read about the red heifer, the Parah Adumah. We do that because Pesach is coming up, and we want to spiritually prepare, purify ourselves. And since we don't have the actual Parah Adumah to purify ourselves, so we read about it in the Torah in preparation. But the truth is that there are people who are working on making an actual Parah Adumah, a red heifer. And today at ancient Shiloh, the place where the tabernacle was, they are having a special conference all about the red heifer, the Parah Adumah. And they're going to be putting on display the red heifers that they have brought from Texas that are almost ready to be used. And I'm going to show you all about it.
We Jewish people have been praying and waiting and dreaming for 2,000 years for the temple to be rebuilt in Jerusalem. And in our lifetime and in the lifetimes of our parents and grandparents, we've seen so many things take place. They're moving Am Yisrael closer and closer.
Yeah, I'm not going to play the whole thing, family, but you can understand, like, they recently had a conference over in Israel, right, about it. And I think at the time of this video, they weren't, like I said, the red heifers weren't quite ready yet, because, you know, that they have to be 3 years old, but they hit that 3-year-old mark in January. There's talk of them wanting to do this before Pesach, whenever they observe Pesach, but who knows? But the time clock is, they're against the clock, family, because, like I said, they can't wait too long, because if they wait too long, then the red heifers will be disqualified, because they'll start to grow, black hairs or white hairs the longer they keep them. So while they're in the state of, of being pure, so to speak, they have to do it now. Right. And so at the very least, they can, do the sacrifice now. They can, burn the red heifer, put, the ashes in water, sanctify their priests. But then once they sanctify their priests, those priests can't just be sitting around forever, right? Because, they have to, they don't want to risk becoming unclean again, right? So this is what the folks, especially over in Israel, like the Hamas and those guys, they are watching this closely because they know that according to this doctrine, the next step is for them they'll have to destroy our Oscar Mosque, right? And that's when, that's the next level of all hell breaking loose over in that area, because it will no longer be just Hamas versus Israel. It'll be everybody over in that area against Israel if that happens.
Yeah.
But
yep.
So let me check, fam. Let me see if I have any other slides on this one here. Son of Man. All right. But I think that was pretty much it as far as like the red heifer. Did I leave anything out, Pastor Kelly, that you can think of?
No, you did a great job, Benaiah. It's none that I can think of to add to what you presented tonight.
Okay. All right. Well, like I said, family, this is just one of those things that we'll have to, just to keep an eye, just to be aware of, family, that this is going on in parallel, that this does play a part in, what's going on in Israel with the attack of Hamas. Like, they were looking at this red heifer stuff going on. They were like, whoa, we got to stop this, right? And like I said, that was part of their justification for doing what they did. So just know, family, if you hear about the sacrifice occurring, if you hear about them, sanctifying or cleansing their priest, be on the lookout for the next phase of something going on at that mosque. And if it goes down at that mosque, know that all of the Islamic world is going to be up in arms, and it's really going to be World War III. So that's the thing. I just wanted to bring to your attention, family. This is it's getting serious. It's getting serious over there. But all right, family. Well, let me I'm going to come out of this here, family. And again, this is on the timeline that I have over here, family. This is on, hang on, let me see if I can zoom out. If you're interested, this is on Time Graphics, and I'm going to grab this link. And right now it is private. And as you can see, I'm going to make it public. And I will save it. It's called 400 Years. So now it is public. And I will drop this in the chat. So in case you're interested in just checking it out on your own. But that's it, family. And also, I also have another timeline there that has to do with the Israel's dispersion. And this is, like I said, this is just kind of putting everything into perspective as far as like the Inquisition and the Israel's dispersion. Hopefully I spelled that right. And there we go. And that's another timeline. All right. But all right, family, we'll definitely check it out whenever you get a chance. Like I said, I think it allows you to download a copy, kind of like a PNG file. And I think there's an option to download as a PDF, but I normally download the PNG file. All right. Well, Pastor Kelly, did you have anything before we ended the session for the evening?
No, I don't have anything. Great job. And thank you for having me on. And family, just keep your discernment, your gift of discernment. Make sure you sharpen that. And we need it like never before with the day and time that we live in.
Yep. And can you share your channel and how people can find you?
So We Woke Now is the channel. And pretty much we do discussions over there as well. And the next thing that I'm working on, I'm going to try to upload a video in a couple of days. Probably going to stir up a little bit, but address these videos that are circulating about Putin in regards to the Russian icons. So I'm going to give clarity on the origins of the videos that are being used. So feel free to check out the channel, but normally I do lives on Thursday and Saturday nights.
Hallelujah. All right. Well, hey, thanks for joining, Pastor Kelly. It's always a blessing to have you on, my brother. And I think what we'll do is, most high willing, we'll try to figure out what we're going to do on the 8th of next week. That's when the eclipse will come through. I think we kind of talked about doing a live that day. So be on the lookout for that, family. We'll try to set up a live for that day. And again, just to reiterate for the umpteenth time, don't necessarily expect anything to happen.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like I could be wrong, but we're not expecting anything to happen other than the eclipse going through and the mark of the tithe being completed. That's what we're just looking for. We're looking for the mark of the tithe to complete, and who knows after that, family, how long it's going to be until something happens. But we'll have to wait and see. But we're not saying that something's going to happen on the 8th. Just
absolutely,
put that out.
Absolutely.
But I bet you, Pastor Kelly, somebody gonna pop up on the 9th.
Yeah.
See, I told y'all nothing was gonna happen. Anyway, well, peace and blessings, family. Thank you so much for dialing in. Love you, Miss Paka family. And well, most high willing, we'll see you on the 8th. We'll do our live. So just look out for that one. Love to have you on, family. All right. Well, peace and blessings. Love you, Miss Paka. Shalom, shalom.
So perfect you are light, great and majestic. Heaven and earth shall pass away, but you will remain. So I say there's no greater, no greater, no greater. There is no greater. There's no greater, no greater, no greater. It's a name I have ever known. You swear by your name with blood. Oh, there's no greater love, no greater love. The only one who can save us all. You catch me when I fall. You catch me when I fall. So I magnify your coldest name. No name is greater than you. There's no greater, no greater, no greater name I have ever known. There is no greater. There's no greater, no greater name I have ever known. It's a name I have ever known. It gives me hope to speak your name. I'm not ashamed to say Yahuwah, Yahuwah. You are worthy to be praised. I need your presence in this place. So much power in your name.